it's Olivia from Girlybunches, and in this week's video I'm going to be showing you this fabulous 3D flower. How gorgeous is this? I'm holding it like this because I've been really lazy and I haven't sewn in my ends. How naughty of me, I know, it's terrible. But I will use those to sew them onto a brooch pin. How's that? Okay, so this video will be this lovely flower. I've just done it in 2 different colours, entirely up to you. I've just done that just to show you how to do the actual flower. It's got this great 3D texture to it. It looks fabulous. It looks like you can't see where it starts and where it finishes. This isn't my pattern. I found it on Pinterest, as all great things are on Pinterest, and I thought I'd give it a go. I gave it a go and I found it wasn't too difficult. It's a little bit fiddly. Stick with it. If you're brand new to crochet, you might want to utilise that pause button quite a few times, and do check out the links that I have in the top link up here and in the description box down below, which will help you complete this flower completely. And spring's coming soon, isn't it? So that's great, and we want some nice springtime flowers. But yeah, you could do some little picot stitches on here just to give it a little bit of a extra different texture or look. But yeah, I really hope you like this video, and I'm going to get on and show you how to make this flower. So the start of our flower will be a magic loop. If you're not familiar with a magic loop, I'll show it to you quickly now. I do have in-depth videos up above going into it, but if you would rather, you could start off with 4 chains. That would be perfectly fine, and join with a slip knot. So just quickly, that method is 4 chains, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and then taking your hook and putting it into the first chain that you made and just doing a simple slip knot, which is pulling it through both loops. And then you could start working all of your stitches into that little hole in the middle there. Okay, so if that's one way of doing it, of starting off. But I'm going to start with the magic loop method, which involves wrapping the yarn around your finger twice and then putting your hook underneath both of those loops, taking the loop that's closest to your knuckle and pulling that underneath the loop that's closest to your fingernail, and then just doing a quick slip stitch to secure that on, and then you just pinch that knot and slip it off your finger, and now you've got a magic loop which can change size with the number of stitches that you're going to work into it. So we've got that far, and now we're going to do 3 chains. That's 1, 2, 3. And now we're going to do a total of 16 trebles into this magic loop. So we're going to count this first 3 chains as a treble. And don't forget, I'm British, so if you're not familiar with me calling that a treble, you might be thinking that's called a double crochet. Well, I'm British and I call that a treble. So that's the terminology I use. I've got video links up here and in the description box down below if you're not familiar. And then we're just going to do a treble into that magic loop there. So that's put the yarn over the hook, into the loop, grab the yarn and pull it through. Now we've got 3 loops on the hook. Grab the yarn, put it through the first 2 chains, grab the yarn and put it through the second 2 chains. Again, in-depth videos and all the stitches that I do, links above and below. So we're going to count that 3 chain as a treble, and we've got 1 more here, and we need a total of 16 altogether. So I'm going to just do that one more time into that loop, and I'm going to come back when I get back round to here just to finish off that round, just to speed up the video, but you can always pause here and then catch up with me now. So there we go, I have now done my 16 trebles into that loop in the middle, and it's magic loop. I'm just going to take my hook out of there, because when we grab this tail end here and we just hold on to those stitches there, you'll see that it now pulls that loop up into a nice tight little circle there, which is perfect for the number of stitches that we've got in there. So if you sort of find you have too many, it gets a bit bulky down here, then this magic loop's a great method to start off with. But the 4 chains is perfectly fine. It's whatever you feel comfortable doing. So now we're going to do a slip stitch into that 3rd chain. So that's 1, 2, 3 that we did at the start of the round. And here I'm going to change colours, just purely because I wanted to have a different centre colour. So I've taken my hook out, I'm just going to snip my yarn here, and then I'm just going to finish off by just pulling that tail through that loop and making a nice tight knot. So to that end, I'm now taking my petal colour yarn and just attaching it. You don't have to do this. If you were going to just continue in the same colour, you could just do a slip stitch into that third chain there and then just carry on with your with this next round. So I'm just going to put my hook into the top of that where I finished that round. Just going to put my hook into the top of that stitch like so. I'm just going to do a quick slip stitch, and again, if you were just continuing your colour yarn, then you wouldn't need to do this, you would just continue from here. So we're going to do 3 chains, 1, 2, 3, and that's to replace our first treble, and then we're going to do 4 chains, 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's the number of chains that we're going to have between each treble. So there's my first treble and 4 chains. We're going to skip the next stitch, so we're not going to work into this next stitch along, we're going to work into this second stitch along, and into that stitch we're just going to do a treble. So put the yarn over the hook, and I find with these sort of stitches sometimes it's easier just to put your finger on the back of that loop there, so it stops it getting out of control. And then you just put your hook into that second stitch along, grab your yarn and finish off your treble. And grabbing, you're putting your finger on the back of that loop stops this loop here getting sort of too big. Right, so there we go, there's my treble. So we've got 3 chains, which is a treble, and then 4 chains, and then a treble. And now we're going to do 4 chains again, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then again we're just going to get ready to do a treble. Not going to work into that next stitch along, but into the second stitch along, 1 treble. And you're going to repeat that all the way around. So at this stage we've got 16 trebles here, so because we're skipping a stitch we're going to have 8 posts all the way around. So this flower you can make bigger or smaller. What you'll just need to do is have an even number of stitches on the bottom on the first round, and whatever you have here will be, you know, the number of petals that you have here. So we're going to have 8 petals on this flower. Okay, so I'm going to continue all the way around again and come back when I get to here. Pause now if you want to catch up when I get around to here, and I will be back in a second. Right, so I've gone all the way around, so I now have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 post stitches, and I've got my last 4 chains here. Now I used to get very confused when I first started to crochet about these kind of stitches, these sort of flowers, because to me it looks like I've got a stitch there and a stitch there. Well, actually you haven't. If you sort of pull apart the stitches like this, you can see I've got 1 stitch there, which is great, but actually this stitch, which looks like I had a stitch here, I get that to focus, is actually where I started off from the beginning of the round. So you know, sometimes I used to add in accidentally extra stitches, which we've all done. But just, you know, if you're not sure, you know, double check the number of stitches you've got at the bottom. But as you can see, that is actually a stitch that I've got there. So now I'm going to finish off the round by doing a slip stitch into the 3rd chain. So that's 1, 2, 3. I've got 1, 2, 3. Sorry, into the 3rd chain, which is the top of our stitch, which would have been the top of our treble. Just going to do a little slip stitch like that. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to chain. Going to make 6 chains. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And now we're going to turn the work around so you can see all those tail ends. And we're going to do a slip stitch into the top of that treble from the back. So just a normal slip stitch, which put the hook through, grab some yarn and put it through both loops. Okay, so now we've got our 4 chains and then the 6 chains we've just made. So now we're going to chain 3, which is going to be our first treble. Turn the work back around so we've got the right side facing us, and into this 6 chain space we're going to have 12 trebles altogether. So this is our first treble, these 3 chains, and we just need to do 11 more into that 6 chain space. So I'll speed this up a little bit. So that's 3, 12. So that's 11 trebles and 1 set of 3 chains. Right. Now, what we're going to do now is we're now going to work 6 trebles around this post here. If you just turn your work so that you can now work easily around these this treble here, we're just going to do 6 trebles around that post. So that's 1, 2, 3, just going to get some more yarn, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so if I now bring that work back round to the way we would normally, I'm going to take the hook out. We will bring the work back round to how we would normally present it to ourselves when we're working, and we can see that we've worked 12 trebles into that 6 chain space, and then I've worked down around that post there. Can you see? Right, I'm going to put the hook back in the loop, and now what we're going to do is we're going to slip stitch into that next treble along there, and that sort of locks that stitch down. So I'll do that again, like so. Okay, now we're going to repeat this process here. So we're going to chain 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Turn the work around so you can see the tail ends. And here it's a little bit tricky, but what we're going to do is we're going to do a slip stitch into the back of that treble, which has now got all of these trebles around it. So that's that post stitch that we did these 6 trebles around. So I hope you can see this. I'm just going to do a slip stitch into the back. Now it is a bit tricky, and I can only recommend that whatever you can see you can get your hook into, which will be on the other side of these 4 chains, just put your hook in and just do a simple slip stitch, because we just want to lock down those 6 chains. Now we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and you turn the work back around so we've got the front showing, and now we're going to repeat this 12 stitches plus the 6. So there's our first treble, and then we're going to do into that 6 chain space that we just made. So that's 1, 2,
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
If you need to, just squish them over a little bit. 11, 12. And then we're going to do our 6 trebles around this post, which was going down into the base round. So you just turn your work around, and if it helps, just fold these stitches back out of the way so you've just got that nice treble there to work around, and you just go into that gap and work your 6 trebles around that post. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'll take the hook out so we can have a look. I'm going to unfold it, and you can start to see now that we're getting that lovely swirl of the petal. Okay, so you're literally going to repeat this all the way around. So I'm going to do one more because it is a little bit different to what we normally do. So again, I'm now going to slip stitch into the top of that treble along, and that just locks that end of the petal down. And then we're going to do 6 chains. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Turn the work around so you can see the tail ends. And this is the opposite side of your 4 chains. And you're just going to slip stitch into the top of your treble, or any way you can. And I'm just going to do a slip stitch. Pull that yarn through all of the loops like so. Going to chain 3, which is the replacement treble, and then I'm going to turn the work back around, and then I continue to do my remaining 11 trebles into that 6 chain space. take the hook out. And now I'm going to work my 6 trebles into that, around that post there. So again, I'm just going to turn my work around. I'm going to fold back all of the other stitches, and I've got that nice gap there just to work my 6 trebles.
1, 2, 3. Again, if you need a bit more room, just squish them over a little bit. 4, 5, 6.
Unflap my work and just do my slip stitch into the top of that treble, and I'm going to repeat that now until I get round to here, and I'm just going to show you it finishing off. It's all exactly the same, but I'm just going to show you where I put my hook and finish off to get a nice little result. So I have worked all the way around now. I've just done my last fan part there, and I'm just going to do my last 6 trebles around this final post here. So. And now what we're going to do is we now need to slip stitch into that treble, which is now hidden by those stitches there. So what I did was I just put my hook into, I sort of made room, pulled those stitches apart, put my hook into the part of the treble that I could see, and did my slip stitch through there, which is perfectly fine. And then I just cut my yarn, and I pulled my tail end through my loop nice and tight. And once you've sewn in that end there, you are not going to see where your petal starts and where it finishes, which is fabulous. I think it's a great little flower, and like I said, I have linked down below to the Pinterest post that I found this flower on, which also there is a video too, but there's no talking in the video, so you know, which you might find preferable. You might want to not listen to me yabbing on, and I really hope you enjoyed this video. So if you did, I'd give me a thumbs up. I'd really appreciate that. If you haven't already, why not hit that subscribe button down below, and if you click on that little bell icon, you will be notified as to when I upload a new video, should you be interested, which I hope you are. Okay, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.